Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Legaltech Around the World. We've been having an amazing time going around the world and listening to folks who are, in there doing it and very involved in legal tech in their respective countries and regions. And this is our last regional visit, at least for 2022. I'm Terry Modised, the Executive Director of the Centre for Legal Innovation, and I've had the enormous pleasure of collaborating with David Bushby, who I'll hand over to in just a second, and of course his company In Council as well. You have an exceptional group of panelists here today to talk about legal tech in their respective countries, so I really can't wait for this one. I'm going to disappear but be listening intently in the background until I come back at the end, and again, thank you very much for attending, and over to you, David.
Thanks very much, Terry, and hello and welcome everyone to the 7th installment of the Legaltech Around the World series, brought to you, of course, by the College of Law Centre for Legal Innovation. My name is David Bushby from Legaltech Consultancy and lawyer marketplace In Council, and also the producer of the Law Hackers newsletter and Law Tech Directory. I'm your host for this series, and joining us today, we have 5 fabulous panelists leading the charge in the legal tech market across Colombia, Brazil, Argentina, Mexico, and Chile, for this being our 7th stop on our Round the World tour for 2022. So with that said, I'd like to introduce our panelists. First up, we have Viviana Martinez Camelo from Colombia. She's the head of legal operations at Bancolombia. Welcome, Viviana.
Hi, David, everyone. Thanks for the invitation. I'm Viviana Martinez from Colombia. I lead the legal operation department in Bancolombia, which is one of the biggest financial services banks in Colombia. And I'm also part of the Legal Education Advisory Council of CLOC, which is the Corporate Legal Operation Consortium. Thank you for having me in this
welcome,
panel.
Viviana. We also have from Brazil, Maxime Trubot. He's the CEO of legal tech startup JuryDoc. Welcome, Maxime.
Hi, David. Thank you very much for having me tonight. Yes, as you said, I'm Maxime, CEO of JuryDoc, which is a CLM solution in Brazil.
Great, fantastic. Well, as I go through each person as well, I was going to do it after this little introduction, but yeah, feel free to give your express elevator pitch as I introduce you to everyone. So thank you, Maxime. Next, we have Augustin Velasquez from Mexico, but dialing in tonight, I guess, from Madrid. He's the co-managing partner of AVA law firm and Beta as well. Thank you, Augustin, and welcome to the panel.
Thank you very much. It will be a pleasure to talk tonight about, tonight for me, about legal tech or law tech. In the case of my company and my group, we have created 5 law tech platforms that range from worldwide trademark filings or compliance up to digital virtual lawyers and virtual vaults for life information heritage with artificial intelligence, Internet of the Things, avatars, metaverse, NFTs, blockchain, etc. In addition, we are creating the first private law tech fund, and it's a pleasure to be with you.
Fantastic. Thank you, Augustine. Next up, we have Silvana Stocchetti from Argentina. She's the founder and CEO of Legalify. Welcome, Silvana.
Thank you, David. Well, first of all, I want to thank you for the invitation because it is a great honor for me to participate today in this great panel of great speakers. Well, as you said, I'm Silvana Stocchetti. I've been a lawyer for over 20 years. I'm the founder and CEO of Legalify. That is a web app that connects self-employed lawyers with clients.
Fantastic. And finally, we have Andres Jara from representing Chile, but dialing in from London. He's the founder and partner of Ulster Legal and co-founder and CEO of Kia. Welcome, Andres.
Thank you very much for the invitation. I'm really happy to be here and share some experiences and ideas on how legal tech develops in Latin America. And yeah, as you mentioned, basically founder of Ulster, which is one of the first alternative legal service providers in Latin America, and today leading Kia Technology, which is basically kind of enterprise legal management software company.
Fantastic. So a great representation across a really vast geography that's here today on the panel. I would like to kick off on one of our traditional opening questions for this panel series, is looking at the headlines in your particular country or your particular jurisdiction. So if we can just start with you, Viviana, what are you seeing as a headline happening in legal tech for Colombia?
Okay, David, well, I want to highlight one recent news, which is the international recognition of a Colombian legal tech, which is called Justo, that is translated like justice. And what I want to highlight that because they won an award in Spain within a competition between startups of Europe and all Latin America. And for me, this achievement is very important because it's adding Colombia to the map of legal tech worldwide, which also lead me to my conclusion, which is we are getting bigger and more and better doing products of legal tech in Colombia, and we are actually trying to export them to other countries. And this recognition, which was in last August, I believe, it's one of the things that I want to highlight because it also highlights the ecosystem of legal tech in Colombia. No? So that's my highlight for the day.
Yeah, fantastic. Augustine, how about you in Mexico?
Well, about Mexico, I can tell you that we are really, for the moment, very behind. We are not really investing, fortunately, in legal tech. We have not yet get to the point of getting companies or law firms or legal departments to realize how important is the legal tech on the side of investing. So basically what we're doing right now in Mexico is getting the technology from outside Mexico. So that's how we stand for the moment.
No worries. Okay. How about we cross to Argentina or down to Argentina with you, Silvana?
Well, in our country, and I think that in general throughout Latin America, we have and we see an overpopulation of lawyers, which is pushing lawyers to modernize in order to compete for clients who are looking for more efficient solutions. So we know that lawyers and more in Latin America, we are late adopters of technological tools, but in recent years, there has been a slight change in this trend in Argentina, due, I believe, to the global changes brought by the COVID pandemic, and also the need to find new ways of relating to each other and of working. In this context, I think that the main developments that I see in Argentina related to legal education. This sector has grown exponentially in the last 2 years. And I believe that it is very important, and the most important universities are offering training on artificial intelligence, big data, legal tech tools, and even basic programming courses for lawyers. I think that it is very interesting to see this growth year by year. I would highlight that change like the most important of the last year.
Yeah, that's certainly critical to get the education piece all functioning and happening. Andres, over to you. What's a headline happening that's capturing your attention in Chile?
Yeah, well, I would say that certainly we are starting the road of what we can say it's in general terms digital legal transformation. So therefore we have some great examples in the CLM field. Actually, there is a startup that it's growing a lot called WebDocs, and they are working pretty well and doing things great and taking advantages of the blue ocean that Latin America represents for them too. Plus, we have also some pioneers in the practice management software vertical and case tracking basically, yes, case tracking vertical too. So Legaltech, that's the company it's called. They went through an exit a couple of years ago with a private equity fund, and there are others that are basically starting, like ours company, and basically we are trying to provide a greater spectrum of alternative within that legal tech map, right? So things are happening slow, certainly not at the speed we would like to, but there are some great cases, as the ones I mentioned before.
Good to see a few success stories coming out of Chile. Over to you, Maxime, in Brazil.
Yeah, so in Brazil, I think it's a little bit different from the other countries in South America. As first of all, we have a huge amount of lawyers. We have more than 1.3 million of lawyers and 200,000 law firms. And since 5 years, we've seen a huge boom in the legal tech companies our sector here in Brazil, because now we have more than 300 legal techs. So it's really a mature market now, and we have a few trends. I would say CLM, mediation. Sorry. We have also companies that follow the processes, because we have more than 100 million processes per year, and we have a lot of states, so we have to follow the processes between each state. So we have this software that follow the process in different states. And now we have a trend as well on the metaverse from lawyers. So it's a trend here in Brazil. We've seen a lot of things happening in the metaverse. I don't know what will happen next, but yeah, so we have really a lot of different legal techs. So it's very interesting to see how things evolve. And yeah, we are proud to be inside these countries where things are very booming now.
Yeah, Maxime, I might stick with you if you don't mind for the next question around just the core pillars to the legal tech ecosystem in Brazil. You mentioned earlier the rough number of legal tech startups of being, I think, 300. It sounds like it's a massive legal market in general. Just dig into that a little bit further. Are there peak bodies for legal techs in Brazil? If so, what are they? Are there any particular key conferences or events that represent legal tech in Brazil, or any, on the investment side, any companies that are specifically targeting the legal tech ecosystem for capital?
Yes, we have one fund that is dedicated to the legal tech. It's a venture capital, which the name is Aleve. So really dedicated to lawyers, to the legal tech, sorry. We have a lot of different events as well. Each month, I would say, we have an event about legal tech. We have another one that I will attend about metaverse for lawyers. That's exactly what I was talking earlier. So yes, we have different events. We don't have like a huge event of like in Europe or in US, but we have different small events. I would say every month. Yes, that's it.
Yeah, and I might go to you, Augustin, in Mexico. Can you give us the breakdown, the core pillars, the key players in the legal tech ecosystem in Mexico?
Okay, obviously, as Andres mentioned it, we have a Legaltech presence in Mexico, and they have a Legal Tech Revolution. It's an event for partners of law firms and legal managers of Mexican, obviously, and transnational companies. The meeting point for technology, innovation, and digital transformation of legal industry is what they really talk about. Then we have another one, which is Lawyers of the Future. There is a 4th edition that will take place next November 8 and 9. It is organized by Universidad del Pacífico in Peru. So basically they are inviting also the Mexicans to be there. And this fourth edition will see of lawyers of the future will push like the attendees to they will push attendees to imagine how it will be the collaboration between the academic world, the public sector, and the private sector as an engine of transformation towards a more human law and better society, having technology as the heart of the discussion. And in addition to that, obviously, I really don't like to talk about myself, but we obviously are doing a lot of work. Basically, we are trying to divide legal tech, which goes to law firms and to corporations, legal departments in corporations, and then law tech. We are trying to divide legal tech from law tech. And law tech goes to the consumers directly, is more disruptive, and it really goes around the law firms and around the legal departments. So that is how we are attacking that in Mexico.
Yeah, that's really interesting, that divide between legal tech and law tech. And I wanted to ask you as well, in terms of the rough number of legal tech, maybe combined with law tech startups. I know you're involved with a number of different products alone. Do you have a sense of how many are there? Is it a dozen or tens or hundreds?
No, I would say that we are nearly like Mexican companies, like probably 6 to 10 Mexican companies, but we have another number, rough number, like from other countries such as Chile with Legaltech, or also Vilex, which is also moving around with artificial intelligence, etc. But they are here from Spain, where I am. So basically, what we are doing as Mexicans again is getting the technology from outside. We don't have really a lot of companies doing legal tech, but we are doing law tech.
Yeah. Bibiana, over to you in Colombia. Can you give us the breakdown of your ecosystem there?
Sure. Okay, so I think there are like many important actors or main characters in this ecosystem. First, I think, and the one that started everything was network. We started a network for the intersection between law and technology, more or less like 8 years ago, which is called Legal Hackers, which is actually an organization that goes worldwide and has chapters in many countries. But for us, that was like a super good starting point, because we started to connect the people that like and that are willing to work on these topics. And then from there was born another network, which is the Legaltech, the Colombian Legaltech Association. That was born, I think, 3 years ago. And in there, they kind of did more like an institution with more programs and more initiatives around legal tech. So now we have an agenda almost every month of an event related with legal tech, which is very good. And you can pay a subscription and you can be part of a network, but also get some things in exchange. So we are really building like a community around legal tech. So I think network was one of the main pillars of this revolution. But together with the network, there are other super important parties like universities. You have seen nowadays more universities doing either like some lectures within bachelor's or specializations programs related with legal tech or legal innovation, or how to change the mindset of the lawyers that are on the process of graduating. So I think that also is very, very important for the ecosystem. And in all this movement of people interest in the ecosystem, we have been able to map more than 110 legal tech companies in Colombia. We did an exercise in 2010, in 2020, sorry.
Yep.
And I think by now that number has grown much more, but we have that rough number of 110, which is quite good for us, which we are just starting to develop the ecosystem and all the other products, but I think it's a good start. A lot of them are more focused on research, legal research, or like the normal things like the software, the enterprise software solutions, but you start to see more advanced technologies like automation or some sort of artificial intelligence for law. That's very new. Like I will say our startups are more like on the phase of solving the basics, which is actually what the companies and the legal services are needing now. And I will add two more important pillars of the ecosystem. One is justice and the government, and more after the pandemic, that has been growing a lot, like all the digitalization of the justice and all the efforts that the government is making in order to establish a digital justice for Colombia, which is already it's still in process, but I think that also adds a lot to the ecosystem. And the last one, which goes to my side, the development of an industry and more legal departments involved in the legal tech revolution. Like nowadays you start seeing more people interested in legal operations and how to do how to have a better system for administration within the legal department. So I think that also is going to lead to more transformation within the legal tech ecosystem.
Bibiana, that's great to hear that you've got well over 100 startups in Colombia alone.
There are a lot.
Where can we find that map? Just who put that together?
I can share that we have it on a link on the website of Legal Hackers. It's the map with the companies and a rough description. So I can send it to you with the link so you can share it with everyone.
Oh, fantastic. Thank you. That's lots happening in Colombia, that's for sure. How about you, Andres, for Chile?
Yeah, unfortunately, we don't have a kind of updated map on legal tech. However, some guys from Spain, actually, legal techies, built a map like a couple of years ago and tried to update that last year. So that's the most updated information regarding the environment we face and the ecosystem of legal techs. Since then, I would say that probably we can find around also a number of between 50 and 80 like really relevant legal texts in the market too. From more the kind of environment or the relationships that we have been building since I don't know 10 years ago, trying to put the discussion about innovation, legal tech, plus certainly a change in legal services models. I would say that Legal Hackers helped a lot. Actually, I was founder of that chapter in Chile too. Some years ago, actually. I believe it was one of the first chapters actually in Latin America too. And we did some events like gathering people talking about blockchain at the beginning of the boom of Bitcoin and everything, and then trying to gather people to talk about other topics. But it hasn't been at the time, I would say, a really active and live community. So we have been facing still lack of interest on taking part of these communities to bring the topics over the table. So yeah, that's mainly my summary related to the Chilean ecosystem.
I remember really seeing Legal Hackers sort of explode across the world, like obviously starting out of the US, and then it very quickly spread internationally. And that seemed to be probably one of the first organizations dedicated to legal tech in various countries around the world. We recently had this session for Asia, and certainly we had the founder of Legal Hackers Japan, that chapter And we certainly had it in Australia. And maybe similarly, we had legal hackers start something in our country at least, and then other organizations have probably since rose to be more the more prominent peak bodies. It seems to be a bit of a trend. I wanted to bring you in here, Silvana, for Argentina. Last one on just give us the breakdown on the key things we should know about the legal tech ecosystem where you are.
Yeah, in Argentina, I agree with Viviana that recently said that universities are very important in this ecosystem that for Argentina is very new, and I think that it's newer than for the other countries. I would highlight that. And we also have growth in companies that legal tech companies of document automation tools and also legal research tools. Also, their people are using platforms that allow users to offer and obtain legal services online. As to these platforms, we are seeing that the trend that lawyers are starting to use these marketplaces style platforms, but they value them when they are specialized and only dedicated to legal services, because there are other platforms that mix different kind of professional services, and lawyers don't like them. In Argentina, there is also a growth in the use of digital signature. There is a very important legal tech company that is called Signature and is expanding in Latin America. And finally, I observed that there is a very interesting trend at the state level in relationship to the digitalization of procedures, files, and different processes. And also a great progress is being made in the use of technology to investigate cybercrime. And yes, today I participated in a congress this morning in Buenos Aires, and one of the topics was that. I think that the state is making a really big effort to be in this new way.
And Silvana, in terms of key events or hubs or groups in Argentina, is there anyone trying to organize events or communities specifically around legal tech in Argentina?
We should. I think that maybe universities and some NGOs, but they are not specialized in legal tech. We don't have an Argentinian Legal Tech Association. Maybe we could work on that. I think we need that. As to the number of legal tech companies, we don't have an official map. As Andres said, there is this legal techies map, but in Argentina it's not. It doesn't show the reality, because some of that companies are no longer alive, and there are also new players in the ecosystem. So I think that we need to work in Latin America and in Argentina more. There is a new association, I don't know if you know them, it's called ALIL, that was born during the COVID pandemic, and it has a presence in Argentina. But I think that we have, I see it like an opportunity to work on. In numbers, I think that there are between 10 and 20 important players in the legal tech ecosystem.
Yeah, thank you. And you mentioned a few trends as well just before, and I guess there's an opportunity to create something or a community or something that can bring everyone together. What about key challenges? And I'll bring in other panelists on trends, opportunities, and challenges. But just to stick with you here, Silvana, what do you think are the big challenges for legal tech in Argentina?
Well, I think that we have a great challenge, and as I say, a lot of work to do, and it is essential to take advantage of the technological wave that we are experiencing to catch up with our colleagues around the world. And that is why I again highlight the work that universities are doing to train new generations so they are prepared to be efficient professionals. I think that our main challenge is to culturalize our colleagues so they trust in the efficiency of legal tech tools and understand that it will improve their work. And I think that finally, as to the investors, there is also an opportunity in Latin America, as they already took that opportunity in Europe when we witnessed capital injections of millions of euros. We are not seeing that trend in Latin America, or at least in Argentina. And finally, I think that we have the responsibility to use the technology in to be more human, to give a better service to our clients. And I think that is also our challenge, to grow, but to make people understand that we can help them better with more technology.
And Silvana, as a founder of a legal tech startup, how have you found the fund or the capital markets? Access to capital, is that a challenge for you guys, or do you need to look beyond your borders to access capital for legal tech?
We are looking beyond our borders to look for capital. We didn't found a lot of VCs in Argentina. In Argentina, there are not VCs that are specialized in legal tech. There are not legal tech or law tech funds. So it is a big challenge. We are expanding also to other countries of Latin America, as we are going to be soon in Paraguay, and also to Europe, España and Italy. So we have that goal very, very clear and very near.
Indeed. Thanks so much, Silvana. Sticking with trends, key trends, challenges, and opportunities, of course. August, in Mexico, what are you seeing there?
Okay, there are many surveys for Latin America that indicate that there are between 300, 400 legal tech companies in the region. If we compare that to Europe, in Europe they have like 1,000, and the United States 2,000. That really shows the long way we still have to go to be part of this valuable industry that in early 2020 was valued by the Law Society, obviously I think in the UK, of $1.6 billion. So personally, you know that I have this division between legal tech and law tech. So on my perspective, we have to put a lot of more effort on the law tech, which again is disruptive and it goes to the consumers. On the other hand, as I said, legal tech goes to legal departments and law firms. So there is still a resistance, obviously, basically from law firms to get into this new trend, which on one side it's a good opportunity for at least for ABA Group because we have obviously a blue ocean in front of us. So that's what we're doing right now. We're trying to invest and also to get funds to continue growing our own platforms and also to create a LawTech fund that really targets disruptive technology. I will not say for law firms or legal departments, but rather to the consumers.
For the law techs.
So, yeah.
Augustine,
So
I was sorry to interrupt, but I was wondering just on that theme with the law tech, which is more direct to consumer, disruptive type technology. Do you ever see, I think I've seen some trends where founders will start a company in that space, not targeting enterprise, not targeting corporates, but more the consumer side, getting some level of traction on the consumer side, but then maybe figuring out that they can make more money selling that technology to enterprise and end up being in what you would then define as legal tech. Have you seen any of that type of trend happening where things might start at the consumer level, then move into enterprise because there could be bigger ticket size sales?
Well, it's exactly what has happened in other industries. I mean, from my point of view, every industry like law firms or legal departments eventually will have their own Uber. It's like, so yeah, what I view is that eventually, even though it's going very slow, at the end of the day, I think that the technology will finally get direct to consumers. So it's very difficult, your question, because when you are in front of a blue ocean, it's very difficult, I mean, to transmit. Like when these guys from Uber or these guys from Netflix or these guys from Airbnb try to explain what they were thinking about, going around hotels, going around the taxi drivers, going around, it's very difficult to explain. But however, I think that eventually technology will take us there. So I don't know if it was Maxime or Andres who mentioned about the metaverse. We are currently working with a university in Mexico. We are going to start creating a metaverse, and that metaverse will deal with offices offices that will provide services, and we have filed patent for that. Or we will also are working for a safe deposit box of information to heritage your information of your life, because that's something that you lose, and that's something very new. I mean, you can heritage a car, a house, but you cannot heritage your personal, I don't know, your life. So it's something that I just put there in what we're working on, because it's something different. Again, it's disruptive. It has artificial intelligence, has metaverse, has NFTs, has Internet of the Things, and we also have filed a patent very recently on that with what they call it something like mixed technology, and it's a new way of filing patents that include artificial intelligence, Internet of the Things. I mean, there are plenty. It's not only us. Blended technologies is the way they call it now, this new patent filing. So it's very difficult for me to explain in a couple of minutes, but basically what we are working on again is LawTech that try to get, it's very difficult to say it, but instead of going for a law firm and get a license, giving a license so they start using a technology which will be Legaltech, we are trying to get to consumers and get 1 million consumers getting one of our platforms. So basically, that's it.
Some interesting work certainly going on. Maxime in Brazil, can I loop you in here for what you're seeing the coalface, I guess, as a founder, and for trends, opportunities, and challenges?
Yeah, so there are a lot of things to say, I think, but I think that the B2C market is very, very difficult and challenging. And we are one of the cases that we were on the B2C market and we pivot from B2B market. And because B2C market requires a lot of money. And when you see companies like Rocket Lawyers, LegalZoom, and they are very old companies already in the market, like more than 15 years, and they have raised a lot of money. And I totally agree with Silvana that the problem that we have in South America in general is to attract investors from abroad. Why? Because investors from abroad are afraid about South America, and especially in Brazil, because it appears that it's a country, uncertain country. So from the European or American view, it's dangerous, or it's take more risk to invest in South America, even if South America is a huge country for legal, comparing to Africa, Asia, that are starting to develop this legal tech industry. In South America, we have already a lot of legal tech things coming on, but it's very, very challenging and difficult to make people know that we have a huge market and huge opportunities in South America. This is one of the main challenges that I had personally to attract investors in Brazil. And the way I found is to create a holding in Europe. So that is to say that having a holding in Europe and having operation in Brazil, this works for European or American investors. But to invest directly in Brazil, this is a huge challenge. And so I believe more in the B2B, B2B2B companies and legal techs that provide a service to, for example, to law firms that will sell our services to their clients. This, I believe, much more on this kind of trend for now, and it's working well for us because we've seen that we have invested a lot of money in the B2C market, and the market on the B2C is not mature enough to understand and to trust companies that are not lawyers to buy a document or something like that. Whereas that in US, they are much more willing to buy this kind of product because they are used to do things like that. In Brazil, no. So yes, on my side, this is the main challenges for us. Otherwise, in terms of business, we have a huge market. We have a lot of demands for our service. So this is not the main challenge. The main challenge will be maybe after to sell a Brazilian company, a Brazilian service outside of Brazil. So to make people understand or believe that because it's from Brazil, it doesn't mean that it's not good, but it's a good market, you know. So it's a good product. So this is also a challenge for us to make people understand that Brazil doesn't mean that it's not good. So it's another challenge. So that's the main challenge that I'm facing today.
Maxime, just to dive into that a little bit, and Andres, I'll be interested in your thoughts as well. That wariness of investing in a Brazilian legal tech company. What are the main concerns there that investors might have, and are any of them valid at all, or is it really just something
just because they don't know the market and what they've heard from the news? It's uncertain. It's not a safe countries. For example, here in Brazil, as you know, we have election now, and people don't know really what's going on, if Lula will be president or not. So when I've talked to a lot of VC's legal tech fund in Europe, in Israel, and in US, nobody wanted to invest in Brazil. And then when I've said that we'll probably create a holding in Europe, as I said, then they changed their mind. They said, oh, if it's in Europe, I can put money even if the operation is in Brazil, because in their mind, the money doesn't go to Brazil, it goes to Europe first. So I don't understand really, because I live in Brazil and I know the Brazilian market and I know how people are, etc. But when you are outside of South America, and especially Brazil that I know well, people don't know this country, and they think that it's a third world, and they don't really believe in the market, even if it's a huge market. So it's very difficult to convince people to put money in Brazil. So except it's friends or family that they will give you some money, but except that, it's kind of difficult.
Andres, does any of that resonate with you in Chile? And then further on, any other trends that you're seeing in your part of the world?
Yeah, well, I'm in a certain way probably in a different position than Maxime on the diagnosis regarding the VC investment in Latin America. It is a fact that usually startups, Latin American startup, move their headquarters, or basically their holding companies to other countries, mainly the US, Delaware, or Europe, UK, or Spain, or wherever you want. And the reason of that is it's that the VC market, it's much more profound, much more professional, and certainly you will access to bigger checks in those markets. And they are basically hedging their risks from a corporate perspective and from a legal perspective. And I can say that for sure, because I've been lawyer for successful startups, Latin American startup, doing great things in Latin America as a market, but structuring their companies outside Latin America. So my difference with Maxime on that regard is basically that I believe that there is a lot of money. There are great opportunities. VCs are willing to invest in companies that have as a relevant market Latin America, but usually the structure and the corporate structure is located outside Latin America. Okay.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. Basically, yeah, that's to have a holding outside of South
at the
America.
End, they are interested in the market.
The valuation. Sorry, but also the valuation is different when you raise money outside of South America, because when you raise money in US or in Europe, you can have a valuation much higher than you have here in reais or in other. Money that in South America.
It depends, I believe, which is the market that you are trying to explode, or basically where your audience is and your buyer personas are, and how well you are, how well you know the customer that you are going to address. And that's one comment on that regard. And the second comment that I would like to make is about the fact of B2B and B2C, because it's a great discussion. It's a very interesting conversation, and actually it's a fact that the trend that you were describing, David, it's true. I mean, there are many companies moving from B2C to B2B when their business models are really much more monetized in a certain way on the B2B side. However, at the end, I don't really like the definition between B2B and B2C, because at the end it depends on who is your real user. I mean, who is using your technology? It's the lawyer that it's doing the job every day, or it's the company that it's getting, I don't know, great reports and great, I don't know, dashboards for the general counsel, for example, in a legal department, right? So if you think that the user is the lawyer that it's doing the work every day, are you going to define that as a B2C or a B2B? Mainly it's a B2C too, because at the end you are selling to the user if you have a bottom-up basically strategy and you have a product-led growth strategy too. So it depends. It's tricky to have that conversation. However, I see that usually in Latin America, at least, I'm not too much aware about the reality in Brazil, but I'm pretty aware of the realities in other markets, in Spanish-speaking markets in Latin America. And I would say that the reality in Spanish-speaking markets, including Mexico, actually, it's that Mexico is the only exception where you have a really big size of potential customers, because they have a great population. But the other countries are really tiny countries. I mean, Colombia, Peru, Chile, plus Argentina don't really get summing the population to the size of a Mexico or to the size of a Brazil. So at the end, it's also a matter of the target achievable market, right? And I believe that the main reason why investors struggle to invest in legal tech is because it's really difficult to show the size of the market. And there are not many studies that show you the real size of a potential market, your target achievable market, your service achievable market, your service objective market. So, which is part of any like investment thesis or analysis or due diligence process, right? So and we have a lot of information asymmetry on that regard. There is no much information regarding which can be really the number of potential users for this kind of products in a certain way. And that's a challenge. That's a challenge because that's the first slide in any pitch deck you will find, right?
So what's the total addressable market? Yeah.
I mean, and that's the cap of how big you can be, right? So yeah, and I believe, and there are many other ideas that come to my mind at this moment about this discussion, but I believe that those are the two like issues that I wanted to address with your question.
I'll just draw on your comment about some products that move from the B2C focus into the enterprise or B2B focus. I quite like the idea when I tend to see B2C type tools seem to be really, really focused on the user experience, on the UX, because they're looking at a target audience that is not a sophisticated lawyer, might not understand legal concepts and tooling. So they really simplify the product down and focus on the UX, end user experience. And then when I see that start to deploy into enterprise, I do get excited, because I think, just to your point there, Andres, the lawyer who's the end user in a corporate, in a large organization, is just as interested, I think, and just as deserving of simplified, beautiful UI. So I kind of like it when I start to see products that are focused on end consumers. And I thought, Bibiana, as I guess an end user in a legal operations space for a large enterprise, I wanted to get your thoughts on that and anything you're seeing as trends and challenges from more the user's perspective as an internal legal team.
Great. I actually wanted to add something in that regard, because it's more like you've been talking more about like the product development, but from the perspective of a user, having a clear product, it's great. Like we have lawyers which are supposed to be sophisticated, but with lawyers, we are on the process of teaching them how to use legal tools, and even basic legal tools, no? Like how to use better your Outlook, how to use better your Teams, how to use better Microsoft Word or Excel. So if you have to start from there, then you cannot try to invest or to implement a super sophisticated platform. And even if it's great in what it does behind, the functionality has to be super simple. Otherwise, the change management and the adoption is going to be a huge challenge. And in that point, I want to add something which I can tell from my experience, which is in a company or within legal operation departments, we have the challenge that the company doesn't implement softwares from outside the company very easy. So what we have been doing, and I have been seeing in other companies, is that you have to kind of recycle what it's in the company for other processes in order to answer your needs. So either the Microsoft Office platform, which Power Platform, Power Apps, and all the Power Automate tools which are great, and you can use them without having to pass through the process of implementing something new. Or the ticketing system that the company has for general things, then you apply it for legal departments. Maybe it's not as specialized as a ticketing system or an enterprise management system for lawyers, but you also have to fight somehow with the IT department to show the value of the specialized software. Otherwise, they will tell you you have to go with the general. So I think that's a trend. I think not only in Colombia, like I have seen it actually in other countries, and in the talks that we've been having with, for example, the members at Clock community, is more like, okay, what are you doing with your knowledge management? How are you doing automation and self-service things for your users? And also the adoption is easier if the tool or the platform is within things they already know. So if it's integrated with Outlook or Word or whatever they use on the daily basis, is easier to implement and to adapt than adding something completely new. So I will add that. And another thing that is being trendy, I think in Colombia is getting quite a big wave, is the client or the human-centered service design applied to law. And I think that's very good, because lawyers, they need to change their minds and the way they think about legal service. And that opens also the opportunity to implement new things, to get other needs they didn't see before, because they are thinking more on the client that is getting that legal service than on themselves. And in that way, you will see more the value of a software or a system or something more integrated and used and more easy on the user experience part. But I think adding that human-centered design thinking mentality on the lawyers, like at least for us in Bancolombia, it's been like a huge change. Like we've been training more than 100 lawyers within our legal department with that. And that's been like a huge revolution within Bancolombia legal department and other departments. Like I've seen other departments also trying to do kind of these pilots where they implement legal design or something like that in their processes.
Yeah, so it's great to hear that human-centered design and legal design is taking hold there. It certainly seems to be a global phenomenon, absolutely, that's taking hold. And we've heard that across a few different jurisdictions now. And again, just to your point around, you know, the competitors sometimes that the Legaltech offering might have may not be the other CLM or the other matter management system or the other document automation system. It may just be enterprise tech that's contained within Microsoft, for example. We're definitely seeing that, or certainly I'm seeing that around the world. But look, we're only a couple of minutes to the top of the hour, so I would love to just thank each of you on the panel. Thank you so much for giving up part of your late evening over there to be with us here today. It's been a fantastic conversation. And with that, I'll hand back to Terry Mottershead to close off as well.
Thanks so much, David. And thank you, everyone. I'm sitting here thinking, do we have to stop? Do we really have to stop? It's just such an amazing conversation.
Agree.
So thank you very much again. As we kind of mentioned at the beginning, this is our final review of the regions, but not our final in this series. So on the 26th of October, we're going to turn the tables on David and ask him a bunch of questions, along with a couple of other panelists, and really do a review on the big themes and I guess the big changes that we've observed and that David has seen in particular through hosting this series. So please do join us for that. All of the folks here I know are on LinkedIn because I've stalked them, so I know that they're there. So do please connect with them. You've heard just a fraction of their amazing stories, so do please make the effort to connect with them. I know that they're all open to, yes, follow up and for people reaching out to them. So be sure to do that. And we'll absolutely be certain to list and hyperlink to all of those and to all of them and all of their companies as well in the recording for this series, which will be a video and a podcast. So with all of that being said, again, David, thank you very much. Again, Panelists, thank you very much, particularly for those of you for whom it is the very early hours of the morning now. We really, really appreciate it. And to all of you who have come along so far, and to this one in particular, thank you very much. And we'll see you all next time. Thank you, folks.
Thanks, everyone.